Hey everyone, this is Phil
and Lula
of the Capes and Lunatics podcast.
You're listening to Into the Night,
The Moon Knight podcast.
Yes, welcome back, loony listeners. You are listening to Into the Night, the Moon Knight podcast. This is episode 223. And if you do look up into the night sky, it is a last quarter moon. So this episode, it is an Over the Moon arc review. And we are looking at Moon Knight Volume 1, issues 29 to 30, Morning Star / the Moonwraith, 3 Sixes and a Beast. And I am joined by returning co-host Daniel Doing, creator of Fringe Knight. Daniel, welcome back.
Oh, it's always good to be back in the House of Khonshu.
Yes, always fun to have you back as well. Can't wait to get through this one. It involves your friend and mine, old Jack Russell. So this should be really cool to listen to. And as well, it's off the back of our idle chat earlier in the week where we had a look at Werewolf by Night and his travails through Marvel and potentially through the MCU. But before any of that, my fair loonies, of course, a big thank you to our sponsors, our gracious Patroonies, listed as co-producers and executive producers on each and every episode. Thank you so much, you guys. Mean a lot and you contribute a lot, and it's really, the show couldn't be done without you guys. So a big thanks to the likes of returning co-host Daniel, who is our top tier Patroony, along with Justin, Derek, Kyle, Wayne, Jordan, Josh, James, Russell, and Anthony. All of your contributions are just gold. So thank you so much. Thank you so much for supporting the show. Added to that as well, Daniel Doing's Fringe Knight, an original indie comic based on Erie, Pennsylvania's very own mysterious superhero, Daniel. Daniel's kicking it. We're looking, if you have video access, if you are a Patroony, you are looking at the creator of Fringe Knight there. A couple of shout outs towards the end of the show to help support Fringe Knight as well. Finally, our two custodian sponsors, Hello Headphones, empowering gamers to play at their best, and Dreamland Comics from Illinois, the superhero superstore. So Daniel, we are back here. We are going to get right into it. It is an arc review, a short one, only 2 issues, but worth really digging deep into. Sorry, what was that, Daniel?
An important 2 issues.
It is an important 2 issues as well. We actually get to, it's almost like a redress of the origins, like the absolute beginnings of Moon Knight. So that's pretty cool. As mentioned, issues 29 to 30 released March 1983. And we have writer Doug Moench, penciler inks Bill Sienkiewicz, the classic team, colorist Christie, Scheele, letterers now, these range from Joe Rosen, Michael Higgins and Rick Parker, and editor Denny O'Neil. It's available on floppy still, digital, Marvel Unlimited. I'm reading it from a trade, the Epic Collection, Volume 3, The Final Hunt. But also, Daniel, I think off air, you mentioned, you showed that it's also available on the Essential Collection, which is no longer in print, but it's a nice newsprint stock, black and white. I take it that's where you're reading it from?
Oh, yes.
Excellent.
And plus, I have visual issues as well.
Yes. Sorry, you have the issues as well?
Yep.
Yep. Yeah, me too as well. I'm just too lazy to take them out of the long boxes, so it's always the case, you know. And so, loonies, in case you don't know or haven't listened before, what we'll do after the credits, which you've just heard, Daniel and I will go through a bare bones. It's a synopsis, so in case, just get you reacquainted with the story, and we'll run through the 2 issues, not really at length. That's when Daniel and I come in afterwards. We'll go through our initial impressions, but then go through some notes, and we'll cap it off with a moon rating. So, Daniel, I shall give you the pleasure of choosing which moon rating system you'd like to draw from tonight, the vanilla or the Khonshu's.
I'm going to go with the Khonshu's.
Excellent. Let's face it, he's the more fun rating system, so excellent. So Daniel's going for that. I'll go for the vanilla rating just for point of difference. Now, we have a bare bones here, the synopsis. It's a little lengthy. I have edited it from ComicVine, but if you would be so kind, Daniel, to read the first half, let's let the loonies know what this whole thing is all about.
Certainly. Yeah. Yeah. Jack Russell flees from 3 black-robed and hooded figures and seeks refuge in a boxcar as the full moon rises. The 3 wrench the car, and the werewolf snatches and kills one of them as the train begins to roll. In Los Angeles, Schuyler Belial, I know I'm butchering that, who calls himself Morningstar, holds a satanic mass. When we once again can produce a beast from hell he has 4 months promised his flock, they begin to file out in disgust. Later, he receives a call from his agents that Russell is headed for New York City. A month later, in New York, Jake Lockley enters Gina's diner and receives the message that Detective Flint wants a meeting with Moon Knight. Atop the precinct roof, Flint passes a letter to Moon Knight from Russell requesting a meeting at a secluded house in New Jersey before dusk. Moon Knight arrives after moonrise, but just as Moon Knight reaches to secure the door to a room where Jack is contained, the werewolf erupts through the door. Moon Knight gives chase, but is hit in the head with a log and knocked out. The night passes, and in the morning, Moon Knight finds that again, human Jack Russell, whom he transports to his mansion. Moon Knight surmises that satanic cult may have implanted a tracer in Russell's body, and so call in a favor from a Dr. Lawson, who indeed confirms a tracer chip in Jack's scalp. Jack is strapped down as dusk approaches, but when he transforms, the werewolf snaps his bonds and threatens Moon Knight and Marlene. The werewolf attacks Moon Knight, and the battle carries from Grant Mansion to the city. Sometime later, Moon Knight catches up with him on a rooftop, and the man-beast lunges at Moon Knight, their momentum carrying them over the edge and onto the alleyway below.
Both are captured by Schuyler Belial and his fellow Satanists. Belial, calling himself Morningstar, holds a gathering where he prepares to display his long-promised beast from hell. Russell and Moon Knight are chained up on the dais behind him, but many of the cultists present still doubt him. Belial orders 2 of his lackeys to move the prisoners into a cage until sunset, but Moon Knight comes to, knocks out the pair, and contacts Frenchie over his cowl microphone. Soon he and Russell are aboard and heading for Grant Mansion. Belial's men soon follow, homing on the signal from the chip still implanted under Russell's scalp. At the mansion, Dr. Lawson removes the chip and Stephen Grant places it in a cabinet in his billiard room. The cultists break into the mansion and, following the signal, reach the billiard room where Moon Knight ambushes them, as Marlene drives to a pre-arranged rendezvous at Jenna's diner. Marlene then hypnotizes Jack to augment his control over the beast and to place the suggestion that he is not to harm Moon Knight. Dusk falls and Moon Knight, disguised as a cultist, delivers Russell, who is placed upon an altar on the rooftop. As Belial readies to make the sacrifice, Moon Knight uses one of the cult's stun weapons to shoot the knife out of Belial's hand. The werewolf then breaks free and dives into the Satanists. Working as a team, Moon Knight and the werewolf overwhelm the cultists, and the lycanthrope hurls Belial off the building to his death. They make quick work of the rest. As Frenchie arrives in the helicopter, Moon Knight allows the werewolf to run off. So there you go, Loonies. A little bit of a lengthy one there, but it really does, I think, capture those 2 issues and what this thing is all about. A very interesting way to reintroduce Jack Russell. Daniel, what were your initial impressions overall for this arc as a whole?
it really had that sort of Greek tragedy feel to it. Like no matter what, like, you know, Russell was going to end up going back on the run. He wasn't going to end up like living with, you know, Stephen at Grant Mansion and like wearing a little yellow cape with green pixie boots as his sidekick or anything.
Cheeky.
Oh, I know. It had this real beautiful feel to it. Like it almost reminded me of like the old 70s horror movies, like The Exorcist or Rosemary's Baby. You know, just like that feeling that like all your neighbors are part of like the satanic cult and they're pursuing this, you know, poor kid who's like, by like just, you know, comic book timeline wise, Russell's probably in like his early 20s when all this is going down.
Mm-hmm.
So you've just got this poor kid who has like and again, this is like an 80s tracer chip, so it's probably like the size of like a bottle cap, and it's like under his scalp.
Yeah, exactly.
And he's just like, oh man, why is it so itchy?
I never
have
knew
this weird bump on my head.
Yeah, it is
It's like that. It's like that scene from Dark Knight where you see the guy, like Joker, like open him up and stuck like a phone and a bunch of C4 in his stomach, and like you see the phone light up.
That's terrible.
That's all I could think of, like that tracer. You just see like this little light
Bleeping.
I'm just like, oh,
Little antenna sticking out of his head. What is this thing? Doing.
man.
Yeah. Oh, look, I think the cover really does sell this the issue and both issues actually, Yark as a whole. I think the art really does it as well. Like you're talking about giving that whole vibe. Sienkiewicz's almost realist portrayals of some of the close-ups of the heads of Belial or the Morning Star, and of Jack Russell as well. It just adds to that kind of, as you said, like 70s kind of horror vibe. I've got to shout out as well, Christie Scheele, the colorist, really good in keeping this like really dark and moody. Like she uses a lot of reds, a lot of hues of like pinks as well. So again, we're given this tone, and it fits really well with Moench's style of writing, who by this stage is really kind of nutting down his style, which is that very kind of lyrical way. Yeah, so I don't know. Let's go into. Anything else with the art there, Daniel?
I found it very interesting. It's funny you mentioned like the artwork and like the heads and everything. Mm-hmm. I found it a little funny first because when I first look at the werewolf, he almost looks a little bit more like a fox. Just with, the long fur on the cheeks and everything, like the long, like you really never see the whiskers on a werewolf. I give Sienkiewicz a lot of credit. Like he was meticulous with that, just like the little whiskers, the little curl and the snarl. Fantastic. I cannot believe he got this book done like by month.
Yeah, no.
As somebody who's in a comic book, let me tell you, trying to get it done like in a month, dude, you've got to literally just like, especially back in the 80s, you're sitting at a table with a little light on you, just like 15 cups of coffee around you with like a giant ashtray full of cigarette butts. You're just like smoking like,
yeah. He's penciling and inking them as well. So it's massive. Yeah, it's crazy.
Fantastic. And then he was from doing that to like doing Daredevil. Just man, that guy's a machine.
Yeah.
Like nowadays, it's a little bit easier, but still, it's insane doing a monthly book.
Yeah.
Even with computers, you're doing a monthly book back then with no computers.
I know.
You just got the table with pencils.
Moench has got it like a typewriter, probably at best, you know, as well. So imagine not writing.
Oh,
yeah, that's crazy. I mean, going back to the look of Werewolf by Night, you're right. It's so different. I wonder if the appearance of Werewolf by Night had changed in his title series, because this, at least from the Moon Knight point of view, is the first time we see him in his full bestial form. The only other time prior was in 32-33, where he had that kind of Universal Studios Wolfman kind of look. So he's full-on beast here, and we see it later on in the Houston run, issue 20, where he's full beast mode. He's actually massive. He's almost like 8-9 feet tall, I recall from the history run. But Sienkiewicz does, draw him at first, very Fox-like. I feel as both issues went along and towards the end, there's that scene where he's chasing that deer and then he kind of walks back through the kind of swamps or something. He looks really a bit more like a werewolf there. And certainly at the end when they team up, there's a beautiful splash page where they're almost back to back, like Moon Knight bumps into the werewolf, and he has this hypnotic kind of hold on him thanks to Marlene, and we'll get to that soon. But I like so a couple of really good splash shots, splash pages here. Now, for those privy to the videos, see shots like that. See of Belial. To me, it harkens really to to cult leaders and like the occult.
Photographs, getting they're getting the undercover photos of like at these cult meetings, and they're like just sitting there with their camera.
Yeah.
Because like if they're caught, man, you were never seeing that photographer again.
Yeah. Exactly. And again, I think the art really sells this idea of this satanic cult. I've got in my notes here as well, Daniel, and I'm not sure, like, it'd be interesting, like, being an Aussie and speaking to an American as well, because I watched some Netflix shows on The Son of Sam, and that led into, like, there was apparently something called the Satanic Panic. It was around the 80s, where the satanic cults were popping up in North America, and I think the media really played on that. I believe that this is kind of playing off, because this was in 1983, so I would imagine around this time the media was talking a lot about satanic cults, and we know later on the Son of Sam was terrible serial killer, but he was linked to a satanic cult himself. What are your, like, I don't know. I guess what I'm asking you is, like, is this something that you were made well aware of when you were growing up as well, like this little period in American media history?
Well, see, I was born in '89. So by the time I was getting old enough, it was in the 90s, that a lot of that had died down, because a lot of it, like the Satanic Panic, it was a lot of parents groups that were going after like D&D players. Yeah. And like, I'd say about for every like 10 satanic cults that like popped up, it was only like one, maybe two that were like dead serious, like, oh yeah, we're going to like sacrifice someone on an altar. The rest of them were just kind of doing it for publicity, trying to, like, they were like failed rock stars, so they're just like, oh yeah, man, no, and Satan's gonna make my music awesome.
Yeah.
Like, and Son of Sam, like even Son of Sam, he talked about how, the devil was possessing his neighbor's dog and talking to him. Like later in prison, he full on admitted, like, oh yeah, I made all that up. I wanted to get, and sad, lonely guy going around shooting people for no reason doesn't really get headlines, so I had to throw the satanic angle in there. Right.
Well, I had a bit of research, and I know, so the Son of Sam was around 76, so a bit earlier, before this wave of interest from the media about the satanic cults arose. Because for the documentary I saw, which was Son of Sam, they had talk shows and stuff, and people were interviewing. Like, it seemed like such a fascination for these satanic cults around the 80s that were popping up. So anyway, I think this very much plays to that, and I think Moench and Sienkiewicz really work well with it. If we're to look at it, Belial the Morning Star, like deep down, it's just him. It's his thirst for power, really. I mean, he's promised them this beast from hell, and he's promised it for months, and he's losing followers, and we see that. Like, some of them start walking out. There's also a doubting Thomas towards the end. So that's what's really driving him to get Werewolf by Night. I think he believes...
There's always that... I knew it was a bunch of crap, man.
Yeah. Oh, there's always the naysayers. But I actually also think towards the end, right, doesn't he hope that the blood of the werewolf will somehow make him powerful as a werewolf. I think there's that talk of they're saying that look, it's all in the blood. So
his whole plot was to basically show his followers that, you know, Jack Russell was a real werewolf, and then he was going to start taking blood from him and turning his followers into werewolves. Sort of a precursor to Moon Knight number 25.
Yeah.
From the Who's.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, it's such a weird plan, though. I don't know he's actually thought it all the way through. But thankfully he never got to that stage.
And that's the thing I loved with what Doug mentions, where, like, he was showing, like, you know, that he was an opportunist. That's all of these cult leaders were. They were sad, fat car salesmen who were basically selling satanism. That's what they were selling. They couldn't sell a Cadillac, so they thought they'd sell Satan.
Exactly. And added to the fact as well, they've got these really funky 3-pronged stun guns, which never really explained where they got that tech from. Maybe AIM or something. You don't know, but I think they could have done away with it. It seemed a bit unnecessary to have that. Maybe just, I don't know if they had, like, what do you call them? Tasers. If they just had tasers, I mean, that would have been, yeah.
Well, like, tasers weren't really developed until, like, 1985.
Oh, right. Okay. So they were to come. So yeah. Well, these are probably the
they the future.
The things of the future.
One day, we'll stand there saying, "Don't tase me, bro."
Yeah, well, maybe these 3-pronged stun guns were prototypes. I don't know. But also, as well, let me just, let's talk about the support cast. And so that actually everyone seems to get a feature here, which is cool. We see in full force, Marlene, Frenchie, Jenna, as well as Crawley. So they all have a bit part here. And this is one of the things I love about this classic run, is that you do get his network. And Detective Flint as well even makes an appearance to actually pass on the letter. I don't know. Did you think they were done well? Would they portray? I mean, they surely would. It's
I think that was done very, very well. I liked how it was like a progression. It wasn't just everybody showed up all at once.
Yep.
Like some big splash page. Like, oh, by the way, I'm here. It was a progression. It was, it was Flint to Marlene to Frenchie to Gina in the diner. I love that, like, Gina's diner is kind of like the fallback Batcave in a sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's the fallback safe house.
Yeah. I love that.
I wouldn't mind.
Sorry?
I wouldn't mind seeing, like, just like, Jake Lockley comes in, he's like all busted up, and Gina's like, "Oh, I was just about to close up. What are we gonna do?" There's guys are after us. Like, "Oh, we'll just go down here." He's like, just hits like a secret button, and this panel opens up, and the like, "The hell did this show up?" He's like, "Oh, I had this put in over the weekend." "Oh, you did? Oh, when were you gonna tell me?" Like, "Oh, I'm talking about it now." Like, they go down. It's like a giant warehouse full of, like, Moon Knight stuff, and, like. In one little sad corner, there's, like, a crate full of, like, beans and coffee grounds and stuff.
That would be pretty cool.
It's like, see, I got you stock.
Yeah. I just thought it was actually funny, like you mentioned that you've expanded on that idea, but I found it funny how in this story, they all rendezvous back at Gina's diner, and she kind of locks the glass door and turns the close sign, gets right. Now the fort's secured. I'm thinking, like, anything can carve its way through here. Yeah, exactly. But I like it. It's kind of funny because it's, she's normal, and I guess they never expect for the Moon Knight contingent to go to Jenna's diner, and all she needs to do is put the close sign up, and that's it. They're safe. What do you think of this? Is the biggest thing I thought was quite, I don't know, funny. Maybe Marlene should bring this back as well. Her hypnotizing powers. Now.
Yeah. It was literally the equivalent, like, hold on, I'm going to Google how to hypnotize real quick, and then I'm going to try this.
Yeah. Because
that's literally what she did.
Yeah.
She's like, oh, yeah, hold on, I'm reading this newspaper article from the National Enquirer on how to hypnotize.
Yeah. I like it how she, or slash Moench, made it so the pearl, which was Jenna, it was on the end of the chain, Marlene made that into symbolic of the moon and saying, follow the moon and then you can't kill Moon Knight because he's the moon and you need the moon to be the werewolf. So I like that kind of reasoning. And we see later on it actually works. Like Moon Knight is actually able to even command the werewolf to grab hold of the rope ladder, which was quite impressive.
Yeah, I mean, like, after all this time, you would think some of Jack would kind of, like, seep through into the werewolf part of the brain.
Yes.
And it's just enough where he's like, oh, shiny guy friend, me grab ladder.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Flint, as you mentioned at the beginning, I think that was good. I mean, we didn't really need to see any more of it, although... Well, actually, you wouldn't need to see any more because all of this was kind of covert. So these satanic cults, they weren't doing anything outwardly criminal, so to speak. They were just gathering together. So there was no real need to have Detective Flint there. He seems, by all intents, not aware at all of this satanic cult. All he's there to do was to give that note that Jack Russell gave him. Crawley, again, just very over-articulate. I don't think he had that much of a role, did he? No, he didn't.
No, he was everybody else being astonished that Marlene was making this guy turn into a werewolf in the middle of the day.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, that's right. That was a cool scene as well. Like, and Marlene was kind of subconsciously influencing Jack to turn into a werewolf and then just bring it back, which I found really cool. So she had a bit of control over the beast. I enjoyed the plan, I guess, as simple as it was, the plan that they had when the cultists were invading Grant Mansion, so to speak. So putting the tracer chip in the billiard room, Marlene is already in the taxi, like with Jack ready to go. So I guess that was it. It was just to draw the cultists in. Moon Knight would stall them, and Marlene and stuff would go. Which worked out perfectly well. It's good to see that Marlene, as a team member, rather than someone that's just on the bed. You know what I mean?
It's like, oh, Steven, come back to bed. Like, either she was being scantily clad waiting for Steven to come home, or she's like, oh, well, I'm going on this mission with you. I don't care what you say. And he's just like, I'm literally getting shot at. Why do you want to go with me?
Yeah.
Oh, because I said so. That was literally the two words of Marlene through most of the Doug Moench run. Yeah. Either, oh, I'm super helpful no matter what Steven tells me,
yep,
because I'm always right, or, oh, I'm going to be a pinup model waiting for him to come home.
Yeah. Which, tying it back to actually the most recent run by Jed MacKay, this is something that we talked about with Rebecca, which was interesting because you don't see these support casts in the series so far in issue 1. We get introduced to Reese the vampire, and it could be potentially telling this statement where Mark or Mr. Knight says to Reese, "You're the only person that doesn't try to fix me." So does that insinuate that I mean, we might see later on the likes of Marlene and Frenchie were trying to fix Mark and he got the shits with them. So he seems to have a comfort with Reese.
Always.
Yeah, he has. I mean, look at the Houston run.
You had two people who were deeply in love with Mark on one level or another, and they're in that, oh, I can help pull you back from the precipice mode. Not realizing that, well, I hate to tell you this, Marlene and Frenchie, I've been in the precipice. I was a bad man. I killed people for money. And it took me dying and having an ancient deity being, oh, hey, you look like a piece of crap who needs redemption. Why don't you come work for me?
Yeah, exactly.
So he's at the bottom of the pit, and he's making do with what he has.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. I mean, sorry?
That you mentioned that, because you remember the one panel where you see Moon Knight flying through, he's like on doing like the comm check with Reese. He's like, oh, Reese comm check. That's what he would do with
Frenchie. Yeah, exactly. Yep, I thought that as well. Like, because it's always Frenchie in the cowl, But yeah, in this case, it's Reese. So really, he's really marking his line in the sand there, Jed, straight away by saying, look, we're going to go with something new, something different. But yeah, it also works. Bringing it back, I guess, to this arc as well. I think it was pretty cool. Some of the Moon Knight fights with Werewolf by Night. Again, we're talking about a normal man just taking on this wolf who, albeit, isn't like the Hulk, as I mentioned, I think in the previous episode, isn't like that superpowered, but he's strong. He's got sharp claws. He's pretty lethal. So Moon Knight taking him on is pretty cool. I think one of Moon Knight's biggest enemies are rooftops as well, with Black Spectre. Because he falls off it with Wolf.
First Werewolf by Night and then Bushman.
Yeah,
Bushman.
Exactly. Just stay on the ground, Moon Knight. Don't go up there anymore. But yeah, no, I think the fight scenes were really good as well. In particular, the last ones with basically just the cannon fodder of the cultists. It was just fun to see Moon Knight.
It was very well crafted and very well drawn out.
Yeah.
It really gave me that sense of like everybody's just like, oh crap, there's a werewolf, run for your life.
Yeah.
People like, no, I'm gonna fight him. Whoosh. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So just looking through, the panels are great as well. Typical of Sienkiewicz. I mean, we've mentioned this, I guess, a few times with the classic run comics. The way he lays out a lot of action, it's not your stock standard panels. He starts introducing angles just to give that dynamics, which a lot of artists do. So that's pretty cool. Actually, speaking of art as well, I love the last page. Again, a shout out to Christie Scheele. It's almost, I don't know what you call that art movement. Expressionistic, impressionistic, but just with the lights bouncing off the puddles. Sorry?
One of the istics. Definitely istic. That was cool. There's also a fair bit of violence. That's what I wanted to mention in this. We see the train guard or train officer. We later see his body slumped with a pool of blood from the cult at the beginning. Moon Knight gets shot in the leg. It's clear that it must have been a flesh wound or something, but he definitely gets shot. And Belial, the Morning Star, the star plummets to the ground to his death. So death is no stranger in this couple of issues. I wouldn't say going as far as max level, but it's still pretty dark. For that time, that was their max level because, this was back at the time when they really started just selling Moon Knight just in the comic shops. He wasn't on the newsstands or anything. Like, you had to go find, like, actual comic shops to get, like, copies of Moon Knight because, this is an advanced comic. This has blood and swearing in it. It always surprised me there hasn't been like a Moon Knight Max series because really Moon was the Max series in a sense. Like he kind of paved that way because like you said, he had like the dead train guard. Goons didn't just like threaten like, you didn't see us, see? Yeah, we'll come back later. They're like, oh, there's a witness. Yeah. Now there's not a witness. Yeah.
Well, it's still with the inimitable Moench dialogue. I remember with the guard, the cultists go, you feel sleepy? Well, get ready for the longest sleep ever. It's a little bit corny in that sense. But when I read that, I was going, oh, they really meant to kill him. And then you see him like dead. It's like, oh, okay, it's a bit full on. But I guess they're Satan worshippers. So you've got to.
They're going to hell. They don't care.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, they're one of those automatic factions that, you just hate. It's kind of like Indiana Jones with Nazis. I hate these guys. So, yeah. There's actually another one. Again, apologies, for the podcast, but people with video. Oh, nice. You got the Lego.
Yeah, a little minifig.
Oh, that's cool. Oh, you've got. Oh, is that the minifig? I've got the minifig as well, but I haven't taken it out of the box. Oh yeah, but
this one I found at the garage sale, so I didn't have to live with that.
That looks like an older version as well, so that's cool. You got another version of Moon Knight.
Yeah, this one he's actually got like the little spiked knuckles.
Yes, the cestus, love it. But I'm just going to show the art. Another nice bit of artwork. You see it a lot is that bit of Moon Knight in the rain. Sienkiewicz.
I love that.
Yeah, it starts to rain. Sorry.
Reminds me of the cover for the new issue 1. I wonder if that was kind of like a big homage for them. They're like, oh yeah, I remember this old run of Moon Knight with him like with the rain in front of him. Well, that'd make a great cover.
It could be taking it back the 2006 Houston run, because McNiven did something similar with the heavy rain with the Houston run. I reckon he probably lifted that potentially from this run, and again that's been influenced. It's a knock-on effect, I think, probably. And McNiven again's going, no, I'm gonna do it again. So worked really well. Sienkiewicz, he doesn't overplay it. Like there are some. And as great a legend as he is, JR, he tends to overuse it's raining effect. I've seen it a lot. I've seen it in Superman comics of his. I've seen it in Daredevil comics of his. I've seen, so he does it. Spider-Man comics, he does it a lot. But Sienkiewicz's one is really good because you don't see it that often, which I really enjoy. Any other thoughts on this arc, Daniel?
Again, it was one of those, beautifully tragic stories, because, again, at the end, the werewolf just kind of stands there. He's like, oh, okay, see ya, and, scampers off into the night rain.
Mm.
It's really corny sounding, saying it out loud, but, honestly, that whole ending, in my head, do you ever see the anime Cowboy Bebop?
No, is it?
There's a song they play because it's a very kind of noir heavy anime. They play this song at the end of it called "The Real Folk Blues."
Mm-hmm.
That just played in my head when I'm seeing this scene unfold in the comic, because it's very reminiscent of that. Because the end credits from Cowboy Bebop, it's just shots of empty alleyways with rain coming down.
Right.
It was very reminiscent to me, and I'm just wait a minute, why am I thinking that? Wait a minute. Anime get inspiration from Moon Knight? What is this? It's a mouse.
But potentially, I don't know. I mean, a lot of creative people out there in the world doing really good things, and Bill Sienkiewicz, and I'm sure, what's it called? Anime Bebop? I'm sure is that
Cowboy Bebop.
Cowboy Bebop, I'm sure, very similar in that regards. Look, I think this was a very solid two issue. Let's get to ratings then. Final thoughts with the ratings. So, Daniel, I'll give you first go at it if you like. What would you give the arc, which is both 29 and 30 as a whole, Morningstar and Moonwraith, 3/6 and the Beast?
I would give it 5 out of 5 Khonshus.
Wow. Okay. 5 out of 5. Well, that's a 10 out. You're talking about the big fuck off moon then. Is that full marks?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, jeez. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. I love it. So we've got another big one there. I'm just punching that in the sheet so I won't forget. Wow. Why full marks? No reason why not to, but why?
Just, again, it's one of those stories. It encapsulates what's best about both Moon Knight and the Werewolf by Night.
Mm-hmm.
They find a way to work together, even though it's something completely impossible. But, you got to have the big fuck off moon because it's the Werewolf by Night, man.
Actually,
you can't have the Werewolf by Night, big fuck off moon.
That's true. Fair enough. I feel slightly inadequate now. I was going to give it a in the vanilla rating. What is it? A waning gibbous. So I'm looking more at a 7 out of 10. I thought it was very decent, a very solid arc. I can't say that I can fault anything major. I didn't have any major quibbles or anything like that. It's just, I don't know, solid. But I'm just comparing it with other runs that I could think of, other titles. So it has to kind of lie in context with them. Look, the art for me for this was the winner, and the art and coloring, especially those gorgeous splash pages. Maybe it's because I'm not that maybe it's just personal taste. I'm not that interested in the occult, like the satanic cults and stuff, but I do love Werewolf by Night, and I like how he was tied into it. Like, they were chasing him for months, he says. And I like the use of the network of Moon Knight, so all the characters, all the support characters, even Samuels and Netta get a mention. Like, Mark says, get them out of the mansion, when the cultists were coming. So everyone gets a mention, which is cool. I don't know, it's really nice. It's a really well-written thing by Moench, of course. But I guess it's just personal taste. I can't give it a 10 out of 10. It's something I would read over and over again, for sure. I've got various copies of it. I've got in digital or in printed form. But yeah, I think I'm just playing it safe. A 7 out of 10 there, for me. So anyway, Daniel, so Looney listeners, that's the arc 29 to 30. As mentioned, go check it out if you can. It's all available, mainly easily accessible on Marvel Unlimited, but you can find yourself floppies, I'm sure. Accessibility wise, Comixology can give you them as well. Why don't we take a quick break, Daniel, and when we come right back, we'll just go through just a small bit of feedback before we wrap up the show. Catch you soon.
After the murder of his acrobat parents, young Dick Grayson would go on to become Robin the Boy Wonder, the first partner of Batman. Years later, he would strike out on his own as leader of the Teen Titans, and then as a solo hero of his own, who the world would come to know as Nightwing. Are you a fan of Dick Grayson and his many incarnations as Robin and Nightwing and even the Batman himself? Well then please come join me and my co-host Kristen every week on the Capes and Lunatics podcast as we go through the history of one of the greatest heroes of all time. You think you know Dick Grayson? Well, you don't know Dick.
Yes, welcome back, Looney listeners. You are listening to Into the Night, the Moon Knight podcast. This is episode 223, and we have just reviewed an Over the Moon arc, Moon Knight Volume 1, 29 to 30. Very, very fun run indeed. Now, Daniel, we've just got a little bit of feedback here from our YouTube listeners and watchers. There's really not much to watch there, unless, of course, you have Patreon page, but I'm very happy that we do have listeners there. So anyway, this was for episode 219, which was our chat with Jed McKay. And again, a big thanks to CMK7, beep boop, beep boop, boop, aka Chris. He writes in and he says, terrific interview, guys. I wasn't expecting this to drop today, but what a treat. I'm loving everything I'm hearing from Jed and can't wait to see what he has in store for us in this new series. So excited to get my hands on that first issue, but I'm just as excited to hear my High Priest analysis for this new series. Thank you so much, Chris. Daniel, you and I, we've already kind of peppered our episodes with a little bit of talk on issue 1. Needless to say, I think, Chris, you would have enjoyed it as much as we did.
I think we should just start calling it what it is, the fantastic issue 1.
Yeah, I mean, would you give that a 10 out of 10, Daniel? I gave it a 9.
I think I'm going to play it 9 out of 10.
No, good. I gave it 9.5. So there you go. there's a yeah. It's definitely up there.
It definitely had the same kind of feel to me as like the first issue of The Bottom, but it also had that nice build up in it with like that nice, like almost simplistic sequential art where like you didn't have a lot of effects to it. It was very nice and simple. Just the artwork spoke for itself, kind of thing. Like the Marvel Now run from the first issue from that.
Yes. Oh, it was very good. I mean, little to fault with it. Really did enjoy it. So hope you did too, Chris. And keen to hear your thoughts as well on issue 1, the fantastic issue 1, as Daniel has labelled it. A big thank you once again, Daniel. I think that pretty much wraps it. We've just got a bit of spectacle as well. And is there anything you'd like to plug or shout out?
Man, it's been a while, but me up for issue 6 of the Fringe Knight. Way the world's been going, it's been a little difficult to try and kind of go at my own. So I am turning to all my loyal readers and all my fans out there, and standing there with a little worn top hat, saying, "Hey, can I please have some money? I need to pay my artists and letterers."
Well, I mean, as mentioned as well in the previous episode, let's not have Daniel go down that route as well. Go check out his GoFundMe page, for Fringe Knight issue 6. It's looking great. His series is great, Daniel. It comes up in leaps and bounds as the issues go along. I'm loving it. But definitely check it out. The link's in the show notes there for you, as well as we always have a link to Fringe Knight, the Patreon page as well. So definitely look at supporting Daniel. Your indie creators, they've got heaps of ideas, and there's no better way to kind of branch out beyond the big two. Check out what else is out there. It's just as fascinating. So big thanks for you again, Daniel. Daniel's just posing there for the videos for those that can see. Next phase, we've got another couple of episodes coming up. It will be a waning crescent. So apart from an idle chat, which will, I think, be based on, we're going to be looking and diving deep into the character of Frenchie and how he's been portrayed, that sort of thing. That will be very interesting. But the second episode, 225, will be a Lunapic Classic Run review. It will be Moon Knight Volume 1, Issue 19, so just a good 10 issues before what we just reviewed, Daniel. Assault on Island Strange, and we'll have Justin the Owl Osgood back to do that. Should be fun. Yeah, he's awesome. Justin's a lot of fun. Can't wait for that as well. He's got, I'm sure, a lot to say. He loves his classic Moon Knight. So I'm sure Justin would have had a lot to say about these issues as well, Daniel. But can't wait for that. Look forward to that in the coming week. Now, as mentioned, Patreon page, if you go to patreon.com/ITK Moon Knight, you can check out our bonus incentives as well. So while you're there looking at the Fringe Knight Patreon page, check out the ITK Moon Knight Patreon page. Check out the tiers and the bonuses. Really trying to make it worth your while, but also just appreciate your support. Hello Headphones, if you use the code ITK Moon Knight, you'll get 10% off their online store. And Dreamland Comics, if you use the code MOON, you'll get 20% off their online store. We're also affiliate members with Entertainment Earth for all your action figure needs. Daniel has shown us his vast, amazing collection. Random Doom figure. Was it Doom? The game Doom figure amongst the Moon Knights there. And Doomslayer, is it? Yep, and a knocked out Snake Eyes there, which I think Moon Knight had a hand in that. But check out Entertainment Earth. Any purchases through our link will help the show as well. And also we are part of the Collective, a band of like-minded podcasters, all doing great stuff, all character-based, comic-related, geek culture-related. Go check them out. I'm going to give a big shout-out this episode to DCAU. It's a DC Animated Universe podcast hosted by Alan and Rebecca. All of you will know Rebecca, High Priest of Khonshu. And also Happiness in Darkness, the superhero movie podcast hosted by DJ Nick. Really good stuff there. Great stuff. I recently had a little stint there. I talked about Aliens, which I absolutely love. Daniel, are you an Aliens/Predator fan?
I am a bit of an aficionado. There's been a big resurgence with the figures here in the States. I don't know if you've gotten them down there yet. Yeah, they've recently really started putting out like Xenomorph figures and Predator figures.
Yeah, I think the specialist shops over here still, pretty much have them as well. But there's still, I mean, outside of those that really love their geek stuff, yeah, we don't get much exposure for those figures, like the NECA figures and stuff, but I love them. I've been talking to, a big shout out to Brian Biggie from Inner Demons, a Ghost Rider podcast. He gave away all his Aliens and Predator figures back in the 90s or something. I know. So he's trying to recollect them. But wish you well, Brian.
Must reestablish his base.
Sorry, what was that?
He must reestablish his power base.
Exactly. He must. You recharge. Also, as well, finally, you can contact us. Email at itkmoonnight@gmail.com. We're also on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, Discord, Get Vocal, and on Podchaser too. And incidentally, Apple Podcasts and Podchaser, if you can leave a review, that would be really cool, because we'll be able to get out there more. Hopefully, we'll see more members as the TV show and or this comic book series gains traction. But just loving our community so far, Daniel, and the likes of yourself just make it a really cool community. So I'm very proud of that.
Nah. I'm just a simple nerd making his way through the comic verse.
That is the mantra for all of us. So, yeah. So anyway, a big thank you once again, Daniel, and as always, may Khonshu watch over the denizens of the night. Catch you later.
Moon Knight and affiliated characters, stories and events are properties of Marvel Characters Incorporated. Materials used and discussed within the podcast are intended for critique and review purposes only under the fair dealing concept of the current Copyright Act. The views, information or opinions expressed during the podcast are solely those of the individuals involved and do not necessarily represent those of the copyright owners.